me say it's kinda hard for him to hold a job since the charges ain't expunged for him. I feel you, brother, but sometimes we have to slow down. Just look around and discover that we found a true gem in the middle of the wasteland. It's just too bad that precious time it goes wasted. Yeah, I'm kinda skeptical when I see them planes fly low. Look in the ghettos, them tend to drop loads of dope. That rum and coke and crack them break they back. They gotta have it, it's a habit. No Sabbath for the addict, you know. Young cats is on the grind. Stand on the corner, got them nickels and the dimes. Street dreaming, pat they pushing small time. Too busy hustling, the know it's by design. Let all them know his pocket got holes and money don't grow on trees, and things ain't always what they seem. She's 16, 2 mouths to feed. You wouldn't believe the sight she's seen. Kinda hard to wipe clean the scene. Erase the memories of parents, dope fiends, enough to make a nickel scream. I mean, we gotta struggle just to keep our heads above the water, all to get an award for all the drama. Hot damn, another day, another holler. Work like a dog just to try and make a dollar. Scraping our knuckles just to get up off the bottom. Say what you say, we just trying to reach the top. And police coming, them sound the siren, nothing happening. So what you want round here? You keep a circling, provoking something negative. Man, keep it moving, take your attitude elsewhere. Something gotta give. People live in fear, say them coppers shoot to kill. Streets are the battlefield, man. It's real. Protect and serve is the motto, but them protect their ass after serving niggas hollow. Tips to the head, Mr. Officer, hollow. Look, will you go to maintain this bravado? It's no difference in the cops and the robbers. It's no difference in the coppers and the robbers. But sometimes we have to slow down. Just look around and discover that we found the true gems in the middle of the wasteland. It's just too bad that precious time it goes wasted. Yeah. So sometimes we have to slow down. Just look around and discover that we found a true gem in the middle of the wasteland. It's just too bad that precious time it goes wasted. Mercy, mercy me. Sometimes in the city, mercy, mercy me. What it is in the streets, sometimes in the city, mercy, mercy, mercy me. Sometimes in the city. Summertime in the
Peace, I'm Black Prophet, and welcome to another episode of Do Not Radio. Place where knowledge is born. This is your host, Ancestor Born Allah. We are here to pay homage and ode to our divine Asafo warrior ancestor, Dr. Betty Shabazz. And we're going to bring in our warrior soul sister, Sass Shwa Lewi. But before we do that, I'm going to read from the sacred text in Yasasim, Calendar Revolutionary Daily Thoughts. You can get that and all of the other books and DVDs from www.akabinhouse.com. The sacred text was written by our Jinga living ancestor, Dr. Baba and Wali Kabamani Baruch. So we're going to read from this sacred text on today. May the 28th, and it reads, "Till we have black men in the seat of power, respected, feared, hated, and reverenced, our young men will never rise for the reason they will never look up." And that was a quote from our warrior ancestor, Bishop Henry McNeil Turner. So let's get into Bob's explanation. If there's nothing to see, people tend not to look up. So there has to be a precedence here and now, wherever our genome are, for a Asafo to want to fulfill their warrior's mission. It's time for a gathering of old men and women. Our elders must set an example of warriorhood in the tradition of the ageless warrior. It is time for a vanguard of elders willing to risk their fixed income, ignore their aches and pains to clear a revolutionary path by practical example. Acts of liberation can only be taught through demonstration. What is there to lose but one's ancestralship? This is not a call for our elders to become anarchists. That is a European disposition. Chaos for the sake of chaos. Destruction for the sake of destruction. Destruction and chaos simply for their own sake is counterproductive when in the end, the old European order is simply replaced with a new European order. That is not what we are after, and European culture cannot be changed into anything African. We have to see that historically. Anarchy is a European strategy where the frustrated dispossessed seek to undermine the stability and security of their empowered brothers so that they can replace them by appropriating their privilege. Anarchy is only an effective nation-building tool if used in the context of a conscious vision. The affirmation states, "I exude a power rightfully respected, feared, and hated." The affirmation states, "I exude a power rightfully respected, feared, and hated." The affirmation states, "I exude a power rightfully respected, feared, and hated." So this was Baba's explanation from Inyasa Sim, the calendar of revolutionary daily thoughts, written by Jinga living ancestor, Dr. Baba and Wali Kabamani Baruch. And as I said, you can get that from www.occupanthouse.com. So let me welcome to the platform and to the microphone our warrior sister as we play commemoration and homage to our beloved warrior ancestor, Dr. Betty Shabazz, our soul sister, Sass, aka Ramen Thorough, is in the building.
Shalom.
Shalom.
I almost messed up. I almost said, well, I did say the S word like like 3 times. I said the S word because I didn't have my headphones plugged up, and then I have all these books in the way, and then I was reading something while you were reading something. So, and then I heard my name, and I'm like, oh, but I made it. I made it, yay! And I'm
All
prepared, but
praise.
I'm unprepared. All praise to the Most High. That's right.
That's it.
Um. All right. Let me. How am I gonna do this? All right. What you say we were talking about?
Dr. Betty Shabazz.
Right. Okay. So, everybody should know. Whoever views this channel already knows who Betty Shabazz is. Not only is her like future twin, but she was the wife of Malcolm X and a caretaker to the children. Right. Uh, also an educator and also a civil rights activist. I did read somewhere, probably just now through some stuff I was reading, that Malcolm X said in one of his speeches that his wife understands him, and so does his children. They're not even, they're like little children, but they do understand and would rather have a father that came out and did what he was doing instead of living in shame and disgrace, in regular, I guess, society. So I thought that was I thought that was golden for him to say something like that. Um, so yeah, so that's who she was married to, and as you can know, or as you can kind of imagine, how that would be a hard thing to be married to. At the end of the day, like personally, but it's always nation first. It's God first, obviously, but then but then nation come before you. So it's like if the nation not is no good, how are you good? The nation gets taken, you're taken. So whatever needs to be done in order to keep you know, your freedom and all the things that come with it, or to try to fight for it, or it takes a lifetime of work. It's work. It's physical work. It's mental work, emotional work, however you want to put it. It's an ongoing thing. It never stops. So, anywho, so I didn't want to go through and I didn't want to read like too much of what we already know. She had a doctor in front of her name. I was trying to find like a dissertation. I just couldn't find it for some reason. And I know I have it somewhere, but I was engaged in other conversations and I got thrown off. But that's not important. What's important is that what do you call that? Oh my gosh. When you believe wholeheartedly the same as someone else, um, what's that word?
Conviction.
You call it conviction?
What you want to call it?
I don't know what.
Zeal.
No, see, okay, I want to talk about zeal and all that good stuff too, but they were like on the same page with it. They were on the same page. Um, I mean, that marriage had to be solid in order for that to work, for that thing to stay together, for him to even come out and say, "My wife understands." Even my children, who are this tall, understand. So yeah. So there's a speech called 20 Million Black People in a Political and Economic mental prison. But I did find, I was looking up speeches, but then I ran into this thing where Betty Shabazz was suing a publishing company for plagiarism. I know you know about that. After his death, apparently, let me get it. This always happens. Pathfinder Press, right? That was the only publishing company that would even have Malcolm X, in their publishing company. No one else wanted to publish him. It wasn't until after he was murdered that everybody wanted to start using his speeches and start taking from him and, using all of his work without paying. And the article, just wanted to read it a little bit because this makes a difference. So her husband has already been murdered. He's gone. So everything is left for her to do. It says here, Dr. Betty Shabazz, the widow of Malcolm X and owner of the copyright to his writings, and Pathfinder Press, Malcolm X's publisher, have filed suit for copyright infringement in United States District Court against writers and readers publishing and its allegedly infringing book Malcolm X for Beginners. I never heard of that, but it's Malcolm X for Beginners by Abdul Al-Kalamat. The suit contends that I can't say his name, 64-page book published in late 1990 uses about 9 pages of copyrighted excerpts from 4 Pathfinder books without permission and without acknowledging Shabazz's copyright. The suit also charges defendants with appropriating without permission the copyrighted cover image from Pathfinder's Malcolm X on Afro-American history for use as a cover of Malcolm X for Beginners. See, straight disrespectful. Even took the image. The two parties have been negotiating since February when Pathfinder notified writers and readers, publishers, and its major retail accounts that the material was used without permission and threatened legal action to have the books recalled from stores. Writers and readers responded by circulating a release that said that a white so-called socialist publishing house should trash and burn a Black publishing house is unfortunate and incongruous with the values Pathfinder says they adhere to. So it goes on to say, because, they have to, they come out and they have to defend themselves. It says here that Norton Sadler, director of business and promotions at Pathfinder Press, told PW that despite filing the suit, Pathfinder hopes to settle the dispute without going to trial. We simply want to make sure that Dr. Shabazz's copyright is protected. Pathfinder Press had been collaborating with Malcolm X on the publication of his speeches long before his assassination and long before anyone else wanted to publish his work. So as we can see, it looks like Pathfinder Press was a publisher for all of Malcolm X's speeches and anything that he wrote. And she fought, I guess, tooth and nail to protect her husband's work. So I have to go and look and see what Pathfinder is all about, because it called them a socialist type of publishing company. You with me, right?
Yeah, right.
All right, so you're gonna kind of correct it if it's wrong, right? Because you know how this stuff is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So right here, it says Pathfinder Press was established in New York City in 1969 as a successor to Pioneer Publishers and Merit Publishers. But wait a minute, let me stop, because I need to tell you where I was reading from, because then I'm plagiarizing, right? All right, so let me go back just to make sure. I'm reading, okay. Oh gosh. Okay, so I'm reading from, the author is Calvin Reed. The date is August 9th, 1991. Publishers Weekly, volume 238, issue 36. So that's where I read that article from. All right, so Pathfinder, back to Pathfinder, okay, because this is scandalous. Um, when you have another book publisher, and this is it called them. Let me get it right because I don't like messing up with people. Look, I don't correct people when they I don't do that anymore. I used to do that. I used to say, when people used to tell me who they were, I go, no, no, you're this, and as if they're supposed to accept what I'm saying to them. Like, no, no, no. Listen, says I'm this. I'm not that. Okay, all right. So we're gonna call you what you want to be called. So it says here, um, what was the? Okay, let me get back to it. Um, oh, so it was a black publishing house. Um, it's unfortunate that a so-called socialist publishing house should trash and burn a black publishing house. Is unfortunate, and they called it. Let me get it. Wait a minute. Oh my God, I lost it. I lost it. Anyway, I'm moving on because apparently this is the battle of the publishing houses, right? So, but they wouldn't put Malcolm on. So I didn't get that far into seeing why they didn't do it, but it was after the fact that he's dead. Then they want to start using his stuff and start teaching children. Okay, Malcolm X for beginners, right? So it says here that Pathfinder Press was established in New York City in 1969 as a successor to Pioneer Publishers and Merit Publishers, and has been associated with the Socialist Workers' Party, SWP. As the publishing arm of the SWP, Pathfinder and its predecessors have been publishers of works of Marxist theory and of socialist political analysis and commentary. They have also been the principal English language publishers of writings of Leon Trotsky, as well as documentary works on the history of the early years of the Communist International and on the histories of the Fourth International and the SWP. Authors published by Pathfinder range from the works of James P. Cannon and other SWP leaders to the writings of such international figures as Malcolm X, Fidel Castro, Ernesto Che Guevara, and Sandinista leaders Maurice Bishop, Thomas Sankara, and Nelson Mandela. Okay, so we kind of understand what type of publishing company this was, and I can see why they, put someone that's controversial and as Malcolm X, they published this book for him. So I had to go a little bit further because I needed to go to their website to see what they were actually publishing. But I'm gonna get there. Let me go backwards. Okay, here we go. Okay, so all right, so I go to pathfinderpress.com and they're still in business, full-fledged, right? So I'm just going through the page and I'm just, I'm looking for black faces, obviously. On the front page of Pathfinder Press, you'll see a book by Jack Barnes. I don't know who that is. Malcolm X, Black Liberation and the Road to Workers' Power. It says 3 books to be read as one about building the only kind of party worth of the name revolutionary in the imperialist epoch. That's what that says. So Malcolm is on the cover. And this looks like 1965 when he was walking into the place where he was murdered. That picture, I think that's that picture. It looks like it. And then I'm scrolling down and I'm like, Sass, what does this have to do with Betty Shabazz? Everything to do with it, okay? Everything to do with it. Protecting her man's work, okay? And allowing the legacy to continue with the correct words. This place has everything written correctly. So when you start reading it other places, you're reading something different and you're calling it Malcolm X when it's not. So it has everything to do with it. So we're going to talk about her and her role in keeping her husband's work pure. Okay, and that matters. And as a wife, that's a good thing. That's awesome when you have a partner like that, who is in it just like you are, and I guess that word is good. Conviction is good, and it's not just for ownership reasons. She wanted it to stay a certain way because she knew through experience how it can mess people up and mess their words up. And words have power. Okay, words have power, and especially Malcolm X's word. Okay, if it didn't matter, you wouldn't have you know this thing called rhetoric, whatever. But what I call is having the ability to put the zeal in someone to do something, to make them do something. Some people call that manipulation or whatever. No, 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 no. It's giving them the confidence, the motivation to go out and to do what is right. So, so words do matter. So I'm going through the page, going down the page, um, going down the page, and I'm looking for Black faces, and I see something wrong already, but I'm not going to read that. So I'm seeing titles like, "Is socialist revolution in the U.S. possible?" I mean, when I look at Malcolm X, I don't see him as being a socialist. Like, I did not pick that up out of anything I was reading. So, if Knowlege Born Allah wants to say something about that later, he can. But I don't pick that up at all. But I digress. So I'm going down, and I saw something really cool, and I was like, "Oh, look at this!" So Thomas Sankara speaks. The Burkina Faso Revolution, 1983 to 1987. Are heirs of the world's revolutions. Speeches from Burkina Faso Revolution, 1983 to 87. Under Sankara's leadership, the revolutionary government of Burkina Faso in West Africa. Yeah, I said West Africa, 1983, 1987. That wasn't that long ago, people. Set an electrifying example. Peasants, workers, women, and youth mobilized to carry out literacy and immunization drives to sink wells, plant trees, build dams, erect housing, to combat the oppression of women, and transform exploitative relations on the land to free themselves from the imperialistic yoke and solidarize with others engaged in that fight internationally. So this is what this guy, okay, led a revolution. And he is in a uniform. Okay, he's in his war gear. Okay, and every picture I'm looking at him in, he has his beret on. That's a clear indication of, because they made this sound really nice for what I just read, but that's not how it went down. Not the way he looking right here. Okay, so then I go down and I see another one. So I see the working class and the transformation of learning, the fraud of education reform under capitalism. So I see that, and then I keep going down. A man of Che's guerrilla. A man of Che's guerrilla with Che Guevara in Bolivia, 1946-68. So I see that. So they've got kind of like a mix of certain things going on. So I skipped over that, and then I read something here that was interesting. It says Cuba and Angola fighting for Africa's freedom of our own. It says Fidel Castro, Raul Castro, Nelson Mandela, and others. So that was a book that I guess they did. I don't know what that is, but maybe I should read that. I don't know. Oh, and here's a title here, and I see Black people on the cover. Capitalism and the Transformation of Africa. Reports from Equatorial Guinea. Reporting from Equatorial Guinea and Central Africa, the authors focus on social transformations unfolding as revenues from offshore oil extraction are used to build infrastructure on which rising labor productivity, industry, and progress depend, pulled into the world market as never before. Both a capitalist class and a working class are being born. Includes firsthand accounts of work of Cuban medical brigades in Equatorial Guinea, now extended to Sierra Leone, Liberia, Am I cut off? Probably not, but I'm gonna keep going. All right, I'll wait for you to come back. Where I leave off? Liberia and Guinea, Conakry, as hundreds of Cuban volunteer medics combat the Ebola epidemic. See, I don't like that. That right there raises a red flag for me. Exemplified by the international solidarity of workers. Okay. This is interesting. The Jewish question, a Marxist interpretation. Oh my God. Okay. I'm just finding this. I'm finding this kind of like it's funny to me, because you have Malcolm X on front page of this website, and then you have everybody else in with it. What makes this publishing company famous? What puts them on the map? They publish everything from Malcolm X, who gives them fame. So just putting it out there. So our struggle, when it comes to our struggle, everybody else follows along, and that just decreases. It just takes away from everything that we're trying to do. It just does. That's just a fact. The solidarity, we don't need it. We need solidarity from our own people. So I just wanted to put that out there. So so this is basically all socialist types of books up here. They have, this one is interesting. I think people should read this one. This is Education for Socialists. What is American fascism? Because a lot of people say fascism don't exist here and that people are free here in America. But people should read that. It speaks a lot about capitalism and having to do with the working class, obviously. So yeah, I just thought that it was interesting website. So yeah, anyway. So we're going to wait for Nas to come back because I wanted to transition into something else, but I needed him to be here. All right, so I'm going to read because of like certain events that happened this week. Of course, these are bad things that happen to people, especially, the brother, George Floyd, and his murder, because he was murdered, and everyone watched. And also everyone's talking about some useless Mixie who says that she don't like black people, she don't like her black side, she don't like her nappy hair, blah blah blah. Oh well, cry yourself a river and go blame your mama. It has nothing to do with nobody. And that made an uproar in within the black community. And I'm not even sure why, because she's not black, so it shouldn't even matter what she says, right? But apparently they made it matter. And then we have the crazy lady in the Central Park who waged war on a black man who was just trying to tell her to put her dog on a leash, because that's the law. I know she was looking at him like, who are you to tell me anything, Negro? Like, whatever why are you speaking to me? And I just hope that was an eye opener to some people who didn't know. And I hope people will start caring about how we're talked to, and how we're treated. Right. So, with that being said, I'm going to go. Let me close some windows because I have like a million windows open. All right. So I'm going to go back to, what is it called? This speech is called 20 million. And I know you can hear this on YouTube, but it's kind of like if you read it yourself, you read it out loud to yourself, you kind of can try to get an understanding of being a black person, as Malcolm X was, having disdain and a hatred, a perfect hatred, and it was warranted, of the white man, as a teacher of righteousness, right? And, I know we listen to a lot of things, but sometimes it just doesn't resonate. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I just got oh my God. Let me turn my phone over because, you start to get, you get text messages and trying to read it and then trying to do this at the same time. You just can't do it. It's called 20 million Black people in political and economic and mental prison. I know you can go listen to this on YouTube or wherever you want to, but it means something when you actually read it for yourself. You read through the words, or if you say the words yourself, there's a lot of power in rhetoric, minus whatever Aristotle had to say about it. That whole institution is ridiculous. But, we know that, in our culture, reading with our teachers, the word of God, reading, things that uplift us, singing songs. It's kind of like that. You kind of get, it kind of brings on the zeal, the motivation to want to do something better, and it also help you to relate to what Malcolm X was saying. A lot of the time when he's speaking, especially after the time he left the Nation of Islam, it seemed like he felt kind of lonely. It was just him. It was just him, and I guess a few comrades, and then his wife and his kids. It just kind of changed a little bit, and you kind of hear it in his speeches, and especially when you read them, But he never let up. So I'm just going to read here, and this is like, I guess for the past 2 months we've been. People have been talking about certain topics or whatever, but this week really sealed the deal for me. It's like, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters when they're killing your people in the street, and there's reasons for it. And I think that this part of his speech, it tells you, it gives you a solution. Like, I know. People say, well, what should we do? People give a solution, and then you have naysayers or someone else. Well, that's not going to work because of this, and that, and the third, or whatever, right? So, anyway, in remembrance of Betty Shabazz, who kept this work pure, right? Pure for her husband and her children, and her grandchildren, and it will go on and on and on to her children's children, and this is taught, so this will go down the line. So it's in their spirit, it's in their DNA, it's in there, right? So I'm gonna just read a little bit, because once you start reading this out loud, you start feeling, you start feeling it. So I'm gonna do it. If it says here, where should I start? 30, okay. Oh, okay. All right. If someone came to the house Negro and said, let's go, let's separate, naturally that Uncle Tom would say, go where? What could I do without boss? Where would I live? How would I dress? Who would look out for me? That's the house Negro. But if you went to the field Negro and said, let's go, let's separate, he wouldn't even ask you where or how. He'd say, yes, let's go. And that one ended right there. So they're telling you the difference between, because even today somebody said, somebody brought up Chris Rock, right, and said there's a difference between Black people and niggas, right? I was like, oh my God. I said, that's just a comedy skit. What are you talking about? And how the way white people see us and stuff, as if we care what they see us as, right? It's just a skit. Who cares? Malcolm X told you there's a difference between Black people. He told you what it was. He told you there was a house Negro, and he told you there was a field Negro, right? Two different thought processes, spirits, souls, whatever you want to call it. These are same people with two different souls, right? And this is the one we should be listening to, not Chris Rock. So it continues to say, so today you have a 20th century type of house Negro, a 20th century Uncle Tom. He's just as much an Uncle Tom today as Uncle Tom was 100 or 200 years ago. And this is protected information that Betty Shabazz wanted pure, not to be tampered with, put in somebody else's book without permission. We need to read over this and make sure that what Malcolm said is what he said is in these books, or whatever you're borrowing or whatever. So it continues to say, only he's a modern Uncle Tom. That Uncle Tom wore a handkerchief around his head. This Uncle Tom wears a top hat. He's sharp. He dresses just like how you do. He speaks the same phraseology, the same language. He tries to speak it better than you do. He speaks with the same accents, same diction. Diction. Where have I heard that before? Diction. I'm like, whatever, Negro, whatever. And when you say your army, he says our army. He hasn't got anybody to defend him. But anytime you say we, he says we. Our president, our government, our Senate, our congressmen. Our this and our that. And he hasn't even got a seat in that hour, even at the end of the line. So is this 20th century Negro. Whenever you say you, the personal pronoun in the singular or the plural, he uses it right along with you. When you say you're in trouble, he says, yes, we're in trouble. But there's another kind of black man on the scene. So now, he's differentiated who is who, just to get your attention, calling, referring to the traitor, the one who can't think for himself, or the one who's too scared and fearful to do anything for himself, Uncle Tom. And he called the revolutionary, the smart one, the righteous one, right? A field Negro. But he now turns it and says, but there's another kind of black man on the scene. If you say you're in trouble, he says, yes, you're in trouble. He doesn't identify with your plight whatsoever. Exactly. I saw 2 people caping today. I said, what kind of nonsense is this? And I had some brothers. I'm telling you, brothers are great. My brothers are great. Okay. The ones that I build with, they are black men. Okay. They are black men for sure. And it's refreshing to see and to know that they are out there and they're not all fearful and tripping over their, shoes, trying to do everything and attach themselves to this system we got, we're under or whatever. It's great. So they recognize it, and they had to smirk like, this is ridiculous, and then one of the brothers had to step up and was like, yo, we don't do this around here. I'm like, thank you so much. I didn't have to say much today. I mean, today was just glorious today. And in the wake of our brother who was murdered, this is just so, I'm so proud. I'm very proud of black men. I am. So I'm going to continue. He says, and this is the thing that white people in America have to come to realize, that there are 2 types of black people in this country. One who identifies with you so much so he will let you brutalize him and still beg you for a chance to sit next to you. And then there's one who's not interested in sitting next to you. He's not interested in being around you. He's not interested in what you have. He wants something of his own. He wants to sit someplace where he can call his own. He doesn't want to sit in your restaurant where you can give him some old bad coffee or bad food. He wants his own restaurant, and he wants some land where he can build that restaurant on in a city that it can go in. He wants something of his own. And when you realize that this type of thinking is existing and developing fastly or swiftly behind the teachings of Honorable Elijah Muhammad, which I want to stop here for a minute. So Elijah Muhammad was a mixie too. People say, but he had a great disdain for, and I'm not sure if he spoke about it, but, the rape. We've been talking about this, the taking advantage of the black woman on plantations and in public, in colonized places. We were talking about Louverture, right? Toussaint Louverture in Haiti. And what I read from broke it down completely for you how this worked, and how it created a whole another race like of people who call themselves men of color. So these were people of color. These people did not call themselves black, did not identify with black people at all. They wanted to be like their white father. They wanted to be white like their father's father, and they had their own movement. And this is what people don't understand. So you have black movements and stuff. You even have white movements, but then you also have mixing movements. They try to deny the shit. See, I said the S word. See, calm down, Sass. Breathe. Okay. They try to deny that or not talk about it, but it is what it is, and it's in the history. Okay. All right. But it got better for Haiti at some times where they were all bred out or killed off by Maroons. Hallelujah. So, I'm going to continue. So, and where did I leave off? I left off. Okay. So I stopped at Elijah Muhammad, right? So it says, and when you realize that this type of thinking is existing and developing fastly or swiftly behind the teachings of Honorable Elijah Muhammad among the so-called Negroes, then I think that you'll also realize that this whole phony effort at integration is no solution. It's phony. It's phony. Nobody talks about the phoniness, but Malcolm talks about it. He spoke about it. There's nothing new under the sun. Right? So back in his time, he was talking about this. He was talking about 200 years ago. He said that. There's nothing new under the sun. Earlier in this speech. Because the most you can do with this phony effort toward integration is to put out some token integration. And whereas this Uncle Tom will accept your token effort, the masses of Black people in this country are no more interested in token integration than they would be if you offered them a chance to sit inside a furnace somewhere. The only one who do that is this 20th century Uncle Tom. And you can always tell him because he wants to be next to you. He wants to eat with you. He wants to sleep with you. He wants to marry your woman, marry your mother, marry your sister, marry your daughter. And if you watch him close enough, he's even after your wife. And it has like a caption here where Malcolm laughs. It's not funny, but this is the truth, right? This type has blind faith in your religion. He's not interested in any religion of his own. He believes in a white Jesus, white Mary, white angels, and he's trying to get to a white heaven. Now, I know some of the brothers get bashed for saying that Jesus was Black. I'd rather have a Jesus. If I rocked with Jesus, I would rather have a Black Jesus than a white Jesus or a white Mary or some white demon baby angels, because that's exactly what they are. So kudos out to the brothers who understand and recognize there's no worship of no white man. We don't deal with that, right? So when you listen to him in his church singing, he sings a song. I think they call it "Wash Me White as Snow." He wants to be turned white so he can go to heaven with a white man. It's not his fault. It's actually not his fault. But this is a state of mind. This is the result of 400 years of brainwashing here in America. You have taken a man who was Black on the outside and made him white on the inside. His brain is white as snow. His heart is white as snow. And therefore, whenever you say this is ours, he thinks he's white the same as you. So what's yours, he thinks is also his. Even right down to your woman. That same woman in Central Park who getting our brothers locked up, right? Yeah, that one. Not many of them will take offense at my implying that he wants your woman. They'll say, no, this is what Bill Bowen, Talmadge, and all of the white Citizens Council say. They say that to fool you. If this is not what they want, watch them. And if you find evidence to the contrary, then I'll take back my words. But all you have to do is give him the chance to get near you, and you'll find that he is not satisfied until he is sitting next to your woman or closer to her than that. And this type of Negro, usually he hates Black and loves white. He doesn't want to be black. He wants to be white. And he'll get on his bended knees and beg you for integration, which means he would rather than live with his own kind who love him. Shout out to everybody who stays in the hood, who got education and making a whole bunch of money, but still in the hood with us. Right? I'm in the hood. It don't matter. It don't matter. Degrees and, titles, and I ain't leaving. All right. Would rather than live with his own kind who love him, he'll force himself to live in neighborhoods around white people whom he knows don't mean him any good. And again, I say this is not his fault. He is sick. And as long as America listens to this sick Negro who is begging to be integrated into American society, inclusion, I keep hearing that word, inclusion. Oh my God, this brand, we're going to boycott it because they don't make black people stuff or they don't represent us. And why should we? We should make it ourselves. Why would you ask them to do that? If they wanted to do it, they would have done it in the first place, right? But I'm jumping the gun because Malcolm gets there. And as long as America listens to the sick Negro who is begging to be integrated into American society, despite the fact that the attitude and actions of whites are sufficient proof that he is not wanted, why then you are actually allowing him to force you into a position where you look just as sick as he looks. If someone holds a gun on a white man and makes him embrace me, put his arm around me, this isn't love, nor is it brotherhood. What they are doing is forcing the white man to be a hypocrite, to practice hypocrisy. But if that white man will put his arm around me willingly, voluntarily, of his own volition, then that's love, that's brotherly. That's a solution to the problem. Likewise, as long as the government has to get out there and legislate to force Negroes into a white neighborhood, or force Negroes into a white school, or force Negroes into white industry and make white people pretend that they go for this, all the government is doing is making white people be hypocrites. And rather than be classified as a bigot by putting a block, the average white person actually would rather put up a hypocritical face, the face of a hypocrite, than to tell the black man, no, you stay over there and let me stay over here. So that's no solution. As long as you force people to act in a hypocritical way, you will never solve their problem. It has to be. And he mentions the Honorable Elijah Muhammad again teaches us that a solution has to be devised that will be satisfactory. Completely satisfactory to the black man and completely satisfactory to the white man. So it has to be 100% and 100%, not 50%, but no. That's not what he's saying. So everything that they agree to has to be 100% okay with the black people and okay 100% with white people. And the only thing that makes white people completely satisfied and black people completely satisfied when they're in their right mind is when the black man has his own and the white man has his own. You have what you need, we have what we need. Then both of us have something. And even the Bible says, God bless the child that has his own. And the poor so-called Negro doesn't have his own name, doesn't have his own language, doesn't have his own culture, doesn't have his own history. He doesn't have his own country. He doesn't even have his own mind. And he thinks that he's black because God cursed him. He's not black because God cursed him. He's black because rather he's cursed because he's out of his mind. He has lost his mind. He has a white mind instead of a type of mind that he should have. Now, that's interesting. This part is interesting because it's interesting that, and I wish Knowledge was here because I need to have a back and forth right now about this. Because some people are saying a white mind is this. And then you have Malcolm X over here saying, no, this is what a white mind is. So my understanding of what a black person is when he has a white mind is the same as Malcolm's. But what others may think or believe, they think is something else. So, since Knowledge isn't here, we can't have that dialogue. but I'm going to continue. But that's an interesting topic. We should talk about that. What does that mean exactly? Because you have Malcolm X, who brought up the Bible. He was, he had a religion. He was Muslim, whatever. He just didn't, he didn't see things. He saw things a certain way, and it makes sense. I don't see anybody who goes after Malcolm X except for white supremacists. In his language, I don't really see Black people going against anything that he's saying or pointing out these things, telling him that he's wrong. So, we have to G-check some of these people when they start talking nonsense, when we're speaking the same thing as Malcolm is speaking, and all the other freedom fighters and revolutionaries are speaking, all throughout our history, especially here in the United States of America, because we do have a military history that nobody wants to talk about, that we are going to bring out. So, yeah. So I'm just going to read to the end, and then I'm done. I think I have like a small paragraph to go, and I think I'm done. So, where was I? Okay, so it says, so when these so-called Negroes want integration, try and force themselves into white society, which doesn't solve the problem. He was taught that that type of Negro is the one that actually creates the problem. So Negroes or Black people who are for integration are the ones that are causing the problem. So, I know it's like some indirect references to Martin Luther King Jr., who in 1965 was singing a whole nother tune. Okay. So around this time he was speaking kind of differently, because I believe it was 1964. The Emancipation Proclamation was edited to allow Black people to have certain rights. So this is the white hypocrites that we're forcing them to be. I don't see how we're forcing them to be, but the government is putting forth rules and laws and things like that to make white people accept Black people. And this is probably something that he's referencing to, because according to the timeline, because this was written in 1965, this one, I believe. Yeah. So, was it 1965? I don't want to scroll up, but it's probably between 63 and 65, right? So he's making reference to, and I know this because the time period, the Emancipation Proclamation that was signed by Lyndon B. Johnson, that JFK was supposed to sign, but he got himself assassinated, right? So that which white people reneged on, which I don't even see. It's not even a renege, because they didn't agree to anything. It was something that Lyndon B. Johnson, the racist Lyndon B. Johnson signed. So when it wasn't put forth into action, Martin Luther King Jr. is very vocal about it. So yeah, as if we didn't know they were going to not acknowledge any of it. We already know that. So it says, and the type of white person who perpetuates the problem, as Lyndon B. Johnson, is in so-called people who are in solidarity with us and our so-called sympathizers, is the one who poses as a liberal and pretends that the Negro should be integrated as long as he integrates someone else's neighborhood. But all these whites that you see running around here talking about how liberal they are, and we believe everybody should have what they want and go where they want and do what they want as soon as a Negro moves into the white liberal's neighborhood. That white liberal he moves out faster than the white bigot from Mississippi, Alabama, and from someplace else. So we won't solve the problem listening to that Uncle Tom Negro. And the problem won't be solved listening to the so-called white liberal. The only time the problem is going to be solved is when a Black man can sit down like a Black man and a white man can sit down like a white man and make no excuses whatsoever with each other in discussing the problem. No offense will stem from factors that are brought up, but both of them have to sit down like men on one side and on the other side and look at it in terms of black and white, and then take some kind of solution based upon the factors that we see rather than upon that which we would like to believe. So it's kind of like, don't kid yourself, black people. Like, really, you're not going to get them to do anything you don't want them to do. So, why? Why? Um, Malcolm X says that his wife and children would rather see him, because he's away from home a lot. They would rather see him go through what he's going through with his speeches and touring the world, and trying to get this word out, than to see him living in disgrace under the system of oppression, like just be like a regular, slave. You know, I'm using the word slave on this one because the sarcasm is there. You know, um, instead, trying to fight the power instead of living up under the power, trying to coexist with that power, which would just never happen. So, um, yeah. So this speech is very long. I know you've all heard it, but it's good to like read it for yourself, to even read it out loud. It just brings something over your spirit. It causes a connection, with the ancestor, and it can even probably get you to start thinking a different way. So what he's trying to say is that in reality, you're not going to get anywhere with this, because we have to be completely satisfied and they have to be completely satisfied. If that doesn't happen, nothing will change. So with that, let's see what else I got. So did it come back, Knowlege? Let me check. Let's check. Are you on yet? Sorry. Am I getting a response fast enough? All right. Well, so oh my God, I'm done. I don't want to keep going on and ranting. I don't want to rant. I don't want to do any of those things right now. So I'm gonna wait for him. But yeah, so we are honoring Betty Shabazz today. And it would be like overkill to go through and read from her autobiography. Everybody should know. I mean, do your research on your people, know them, recite their speeches, become them, in the moment. It matters. It really does. And we were supposed to talk about some other people too. I think it was Lauryn Hill. It was her birthday. And then it was like Pam Grier we were supposed to talk about. And then remember who else? Well, okay. Well, so so, may she rest in peace along with her husband. All praises to the Most High. So I want to move on, and I think I want to give my like little commentary about the lady in the well, it wasn't a lady, that was a savage in the Central Park. When the brother approached her, I believe he was in the park, and she was walking her dog off of the leash, but I guess in Central Park you can't do that. So he told her, your dog is supposed to have its leash on. That's what the law says. And I guess she said, like, why is he talking to me? Why is he be trying to tell me what to do? He's black. What the audacity? I'm finna get him locked up. That's what she said, right? And I was hearing some brothers speak on the live stream I was just on, saying that she tried to weaponize her, I guess, her white supremacy with, threatening him, saying, "I'll call the police and say that you're attacking me and my dog." Um, no, she was preparing for war. That's war talk. She was coming out saying, "All right, this means war. You won't leave. I'm over here with my dog and whatever. You won't leave out of my presence. So I'm going to make you leave. I'm going to put the fear of God in you, and I'm going to call the police. They're going to come and arrest you because they're going to believe everything I say, because, normally they would, but he had his camera, his phone on and everything. So, at that point, she don't care. I mean, cops are getting away, you know, with killing people in the street. They're getting away with murder on tape, being filmed. So why should she feel any kind of way about it? So she knew the phone was on her, the camera was on her. She was acting like a savage, as she was, and speaking, crazy like they do. Why should it matter? She's not going to get in trouble for it, regardless if she calls and she lies to the police or whatever. That's in her mind. She knows this. She knows this. And I didn't see any footage. Now, see, look. Now I'm coming to tell you what they would have did if they were still there. There was no footage, unless the guy, the brother, cut it all out and edited the video to edit out how he approached her or whatever, and what actually happened after he turned the camera off, right? Where it cut off at. If he didn't have those parts, they would have been saying, no, like, why are you even talking to her? The dog is harmless, or some nonsense. They would have came with something, right? They would have came with something. So I'm just glad that it worked in his favor. He posted it. He just needed her to show herself, and she did, and it went viral. And people are looking at it as if they've never seen anything like it, or they didn't expect anything like it. I'm like, I'm not. When I first saw it, it was brought to my attention. I'm like, well, that's what they do. Okay. I can't believe all you inclusive people are outraged. And it's funny to me that you don't know when war is being brought up upon you. It's you don't even recognize it. You don't understand that you're in war mode every single day. You're being attacked every day, Black people, every single day. And guess what? Nobody cares. You have to accept everything from everybody else. But when you start talking about yourself and your people and apply to it don't matter. It don't matter. We don't care. It don't matter. We fit in your world, but you don't fit in ours. This is what we get. And we're supposed to be happy with that. But I got news for you. Malcolm said the masses of Black people think like him. And I believe it. I believe it. You only get a few capes. You get a few. They out there one by one, but collectively, no capes. So it's refreshing to see. I loved it. I shout out to the brother who who didn't fear the devil. He had no fear, none, and that's the key. And when I started talking, people go, "Oh, we don't want to hear that, Sass, because Look, fear no man. Fear no man. You fear the Almighty, the one you can't see. How about that? All right. So he was calm in his voice. He didn't care what she was saying. He made sure he had his phone on. It didn't matter. He waited. He even thanked her. He said, "Thank you. That's all I needed. I'm out of here." That's it. So, as if this will change anything, it won't. But he was just showing you an example of what they do, to how we're treated, how we're really looked at. We're not looked at as a Black person and niggers. No, we're all looked at as niggers, in their eyes. Like, how dare you? How dare you step to me and tell me I'm white and tell me what to do in my country? I can't, please. That law is for you, Negro. That's what she was saying. Basically, get out of here. Leave me alone. Get out of my presence. Be gone. And he wouldn't leave. And she started getting angry. I mean, she turned to a schizoid, even so much so, because white people love their dogs. She was straight choking out her dog. That's how angry and irate and crazy she got. This is what they do. And when you get a whole bunch of them together like that and you piss them off, it's over. It's a wrap. I've seen it with my own eyes. I'm not going to repeat any stories, nothing like that. But I've seen it with my own eyes. But, Julie down the street, she cool. She lived down the street. And then you see her next week going off. And you're like, I don't even know this person. So yeah. So that's my thoughts on, I don't even want to say her name, but they're calling her Karen or something like that. Apparently white women are offended because we're calling them Karen now. I thought we would call them Becky still, but I guess we've changed to Karen, but I thought it was Sharon too, because South Park Sharon. And anyway, but we're calling them Karen. They're saying they're offended by black people calling them Karen. All right, look, that's what y'all get for using "Bye Felicia" all the time like it's cool. It ain't cool. It's not cool. It's not cool. And I'm the first one to be said, that's what you get. Karma. Okay. So stop using "Bye Felicia," and maybe we'll think about stop using Karen. We'll think about it. You get in the wrong place, you go upside your head, you say "Bye Felicia." And I see it all over the web, like, really? The internet protects people. Oh, and speaking of the internet, now Donald Trump is now, I guess you could look at it two different ways. You could say that he's giving a voice to people who are against liberal media, who are being censored by liberal media. How he says fake news, everybody who's against him. But then he's taking away their rights to free speech, which he's saying that free speech isn't like your own personal political views and what you think about should have no bearing on these platforms, because they are the platforms which gets more reach to the public, like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and what's the other one, and even YouTube. So they should be held responsible and should not be censoring people's freedom of speech and things like that. I was reading something where I was just reading some commentaries or whatever. People were saying that they're misusing the First and the Fourth Amendment, the government, because that's for the people to use against the government, right? But what Donald Trump is doing is giving a voice to, I guess, people who don't agree with with the left and liberals and all these things or whatever. He feels like his supporters are being suppressed. I guess conservatives, or whatever you want to call them, are being suppressed throughout the media, and they're getting shadow banned and all these things, which we all know is happening. So hopefully we'll see what happens with this executive order, if they really will. He said he's going to have the FTC go in and make sure that they're not censoring and shadow banning and and everybody has a right to freely speak. So, I will say that's a good thing, because this is what we do over here, on Do the Knowledge Radio. We speak what we want to speak. Revolution is a right. When your government isn't right, you have a right to bring up a grievance and say, you're infringing on my rights. What y'all gonna do about it? You have a right to do this. You gather support up to go up and, and this is usually how it's supposed to go, right? And most people don't want to do that, and they just accept whatever the government says, and it's just wrong. And they feel like just by voting that will solve the problem. No, it doesn't, because they decide who's on the ballots and they put the questions up, and they're usually in the yes or no questions. You don't get to say anything. You don't get to influence what the question is or how funds are actually being allocated. I don't hear anyone talking about the census right now because I know the governor of this state said that he is eagerly trying to get everyone to do the census. Um, they're even trying to get a census of children with mental disabilities, I guess, to get, because this is the time of year where, when these censuses happens, because it doesn't happen every year all the time, what they're trying to do is they're trying to rally for money from the federal government, earmarks. They're trying to get money from the government for services in their states. So the more people participate and in certain demographics participate, they take a look at it, and this is how the federal government divvies up money, right? But we do know that when you do these, when the federal government does the state favors, they require favors back. So there's certain states that are reluctant to ask for federal funds because they don't want to be slave to the federal government. So if you know how federal legislation works, state legislation works, you understand that usually the states have say over what goes on in their state, unless it's like some sort of catastrophic emergency where the government has to step in for the safety, the health, and the welfare of the people. So, I mean, it's not hard to learn. There's lots of books, introductory books that teach this thing. So learn how the government works and learn where you fit in, because you'll learn quick that you fit nowhere. So that's it. Oh, I don't want to talk about the murder of the brother because it brings tears to my eyes. I get angry. And I watched it once. I can't watch it again, like ever. Even pictures of it, and people are posting all over Instagram. So like, why are you posting pictures? Why are you posting pictures of why? Everybody knows about it. Everybody knows about it. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? I know that in my city, they're setting up something. I'm going to be there for sure. So we're going to see how many of these people actually go out there and film with their phone. Okay, like the brother did in the park to that two-legged dog, right? So I'm done, sir. Anything you want to add? I'm patient. I don't know what's happening. Uh-oh. It looks like he got kicked out again. Oh, gosh. I know the weather is bad over here on the East Coast, like, especially where I am. It's like rain and it's very warm, and you know what that means around this time of year. Hurricane season. So, yeah. Can you hear me? You can nod like, yeah, I do. No, I didn't see a nod because you froze. I totally spelled them
Can you hear me?
wrong. Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes, no, probably not. Yes, no, maybe so. I heard you. I heard your microphone. I heard you, but you don't hear me. Maybe I should go out and come back in. No? Uh-oh. That didn't look good. Okay, so he's out again. I literally don't have anything to talk about because I mean, I'm done. I'm done with mistreatment. So that's it. That is all. So I'm gonna wait for Knowledge to come back. I'm seeing some activity. I'm seeing some activity. I'm not hearing anything. I don't know if you can hear me.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Yes. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Say yes. Maybe I have to go out and come back in. That's what I'll do. I'll go out and I'll come back in.
Yeah, that's the- okay. I don't know if y'all can hear me or not, so I'll just wait and see what's going on with this stream. See some kind of delay going on.
Testing, testing, 1 2. Testing, 1 2.
You're good. I don't know about on my end, though. That
I
was
can
the issue.
I can hear you. So
Clearly, or is it a delay?
I hear you clearly. You're speaking. Yeah, your mouth is moving when you speak. So that's good.
All right, I want to make sure. Apologies to you for having to shoulder that load right here. I was taken out, like my entire internet was shut down.
Oh,
It took me all of this time to get back in.
I went off on a tirade. That's what I
I
does.
wanted to speak to
Thank you.
Dr. Betty Shabazz
Mm-hmm.
as one of the greatest African women of our time, an ideal example, because we don't get a lot of examples of
That's right. That's right.
African women.
Mm-hmm.
We get a lot of examples of homosexual European men.
Unreal. Mm-hmm.
And they come up with all of these expressions and they filter them through their communication system and we pick them up and we institute them. So Dr. Bobby Eugene Wright said there's an education and training. Same time that Malcolm was. They both grew up in the foster care system. She was 9 years younger than Malcolm. She was fortunate enough to be adopted into a black family in Detroit. I went through house to house, foster care place to foster care place, receiving the sting of the lash spread until he was 16 years old. And he lived with his half sister Ella. But before that time, he got a chance to see white America in all of his various facets and shapes and forms. So he was well aware of the treachery and the wickedness of white America as it is displayed through their family system. We hear systems all the time. We hear terms like system of racism, white supremacy. Malcolm learned the family dynamic of our enemy up close and personal. He lived with white families. He did not live with black families. He lived with white families. So he got to see them, how dirty and how wretched they are in all of their affairs. Dr. Betty Shabazz was fortunate enough to grow up in one family who encouraged her, who loved on her, who shielded her in the 1930s, in the 1940s, in the 1950s. Flash of normal European behavior and thought. That's what we're going to call it today. And it wasn't until she went to college that she got a chance to see this live. She got to see this live. So her formative years, when she was coming into being and coming into the mind frame of who she was, she had a great foundation. Her and Malcolm both had great foundations. Malcolm came from a Garveyite household. He spoke different languages. They were in Canada, all kinds of stuff. All of these things that were never reported to us. They gave us a script for him, and they gave less of a script for her. On the 28th of May, 1934, she transitioned the 23rd of June, 1907. Malcolm's transition, February 21st, 1965. 32 years later, fire, looking to save Malcolm Shabazz, Malcolm's grandson, her grandson. She was in a position of warriorhood, of that divine African woman, that divine African mother, and at that time, the divine African grandmother, who risked her life looking to save Malcolm, because Malcolm had saved her. February 14, 1965, pregnant with twins, his 4 other daughters. She said she loved him from the first time she laid eyes on him and the first time that she heard him speak. She said she fell in love with Malcolm a week before he transitioned. Now, as Sister Sass described some of the dynamics of the relationship, building up a nation, being a centerpiece for an organization, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes commitment, it takes discipline. And it also takes time, effort, sacrifice, and discipline to create an environment where this kind of situation can thrive optimally. Dr. Betty Shabazz was the foundational piece. She was the throne by which the world could actualize a Malcolm experience. She was the whisper in his ear. She was the motivator for his spirit. She was the insurrection for his revolution. She was the healer for his transformation. So as he was able to set his sights against the tyranny and oppression that confronted us as a people, she kept him focused. She kept him dutiful. She kept him loved and uplifted. We are shown about African women. We are shown improper propaganda, which manifests mental into the world as how we see each other and how we see our mission, our validity, our value, our worth. It's order out of chaos. Because she was loved, she could love. Because she was healed, she could heal. Because she had reconciled. Because she didn't exist in the space of an identity crisis, she could be the Christ figure. She could be that wonderful counselor. She came to the Nation of Islam as a nurse. She taught dietary law. She taught about the principles of fasting. She taught of how to rid the body of disease. She was the healer. She was his doctor and he was hers. So when y'all heard Sister Sass say they was on the same page, this is how you get on the same page.
Frequency, that's what I wanted.
And their love was rooted in their mission for our people. Their love was rooted on the mission of our people, of the resurrection and salvation of rooted. It wasn't contained within the confines of an organization.
Mm-hmm.
They were organized. They were one mind. They were one heart beat. They were one. And they faced the world together. They faced the tyranny and oppression of our people. The betrayal of our people incited by the influence and the finance of white America. They faced it together. And they walked and looked at death in the face with sheer certainty and was not moved by it whatsoever. Dr. Betty Shabazz sat on the front row, pregnant with twins and her 4 daughters, knowing that people were coming to kill her husband. And she sat on the front row. She got her doctorate while raising these children alone. And in the pits, in the midst of all the people who had betrayed and laughed and were delighted at her husband's death, she was still there. And she stayed there for 32 more years without the only man she ever loved. She raised those children, taught them to be warrior women, taught them to be the ideal African woman. taught them to present themselves with strength, eloquence, power, to be bold, to be courageous, to be fearless. And to know that there are enemies all around you and that you will get new enemies every day because of who your father and your mother are. So having an understanding of what Betty Shabazz is, taking lessons from this ancestor, taking lessons from this the divine African woman, this healing modality, this healing purpose that is the African woman, personified through these examples that we see. This is the reason for us to study history. For aggrandizement, it's for examination. As in Baba's explanation, you can't look up unless something is going on. Now look at what is going on and look who is in need of an example. This is where history comes in. Your Sister Sass, ain't nothing new under the sun. The Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey said, he who does not take a lesson from history is doomed to repeat.
You breaking up. You breaking up. Say that again.
I said, we're in this cyclic time. I said, we're in due season, as the scripture says. Everything grows according to the season, and we're in due season for a time.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to look at this divine example. You know, scriptures might say, the Holy Quran said, we trade a messenger for a message. But as African people, the messenger and the message are equally important. They're not separate. You cannot receive a message from a messenger who is not qualified. Not by our mind in regards to how we may feel about a particular messenger. The messenger was entrusted with a message, and that message is connected to their life force. So if they do not get the message, do not give the message, they're not qualified to be the messenger. So you have a divine African woman who came with a message. She was a messenger. She was an example. She was a sojourner. She was a long sufferer, like our elder church folk would say. But she loved us. And despite what happened to her compliment, she used the rest of her life to ensure that the message did not die with the man. So let us look and be introspective at the life and the example of this warrior woman, Dr. Betty Shabazz. Because in less than a month, we'll be back here discussing her training. That's another message. That's another message about a truly divine messenger who chose us. Like Mama Feeney, like Mama Winnie Mandela. They chose us. And no matter what happened, they chose us. Then we need to honor them. We need to uplift them. And we need to get back into the preservation of the life cultivator and preserver, the African woman. I saw one of these shirts, protect the black woman by any means. Shout out to my brother Ron Green. That's a mantra. That's a lifestyle. That's the only lifestyle worthy amongst true African men. Protect the African woman by any means. Protect the black family by any means. Dr. Betty Shabazz gave her life to protect her family. So let's think about that. Next time we part our lips to say something derogatory about an African woman, think about your mother. Think about your aunts. Think about your sisters. Think about your nieces. Think about your daughters. And understand what's at stake. Sass, I'm good, yo. I'm good.
Yeah, yeah.
Before they cut me off again. I'm good, Shay.
You good. That executive order was implemented today, Shun.
That's what it is. I got some executive orders of my own.
I was gonna say, I'm not going to go there. I'm gonna keep it with. I'm gonna keep calling them still with Spielbergs. I'm gonna keep calling them. I'm not gonna call them T'Challas. I'm not gonna call them that. I might start calling them. It's called Africans. I'm gonna start calling them T'Challas. T'Challa. I said the S word by mistake. Did you hear that? I hope we didn't hear that.
Good. Yep, I did. I sure did.
I was like, oh no. No.
The eunuchs.
T'Challa.
The eunuchs. Yeah,
T'Challa.
the eunuchs.
Oh, I wish I would say Wakanda for never. For never.
Yeah, we'll keep that. We'll save that for another day. We could go all the way in on that.
Yup, we gonna go all the way in on Wakanda for never. Yeah.
Yeah. Yesterday was Chubb Rock birthday too. Shout out to Chubb Rock.
The Chubster. Word up. All of a sudden you start bouncing. You just start bouncing all of a sudden. You gotta do that bounce. The Chubster. Word up, right? Right. Oh man. I love it. I love Chubb Rock.
I don't know if Heavy D was yesterday or the day before. It might have been the day before.
Our own thing. And now I'm doing the thing with my leg now. We got our own thing. Yeah. Okay. Let me stop. Those are party songs. I love those songs. They need to bring that stuff back. I don't listen to the radio no more, but let me write that down because I don't think I have that. I don't think I have that one. See how I was on point? If you can't do that, you suspect. If you can't do that, you suspect. Okay?
Right. We out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shalom.